Opportunities don't happen, you create them. Good morning, dear students. Now let us see Unit 1 Supplementary. God sees the truth but waits by Leo Tolstoy. Leo Tolstoy was a Russian writer and was considered as the greatest authors of all time. From 1902 to 1906, he received Nobel Prize in Literature. He was born on 9th September 1828. He was a novelist, short story writer, playwright, and essayist. His notable works, War and Peace, Anna Karenina, The Death of Ivan Ilyich, The Kingdom of God is Within You, Resurrection. He died on 20th November 1910. The main characters in this story is Ivan Dmitrich Aksionov, his wife, and Makar Semyonich. Here is a story about faith, forgiveness, freedom, and acceptance of a young merchant named Aksionov, who was sent to prison for a crime he didn't commit. The theme of the story is guilt, forgiveness, faith, conflict, freedom, and acceptance. The main character, Aksionov, had spent 26 years in prison for a crime which he didn't commit. He was able to forgive the man who did commit the crime. Faith in God enables one to forgive an evildoer. In the town of Vladimir lived a young merchant named Ivan Dmitrich Aksionov. He had 2 shops and a house of his own. Aksionov was a handsome, fair-haired, curly-headed fellow full of fun and very fond of singing. When quite a young man, he had been given to drink and was riotous when he had had too much. But after he married, he gave up drinking except now and then. Ivan Dmitrich Aksionov was a handsome, fair-haired, curly-headed fellow. He was always enthusiastic. He was very fond of singing. When he was young, he used to drink, but after marriage, he gave it up. One summer, Aksionov was going to the Nizhny fair, and as he bade goodbye to his family, his wife said to him, "Ivan Dmitrich, do not start today. I have had a bad dream about you." Aksionov laughed and said, "You are afraid that when I get to the fair, I shall go on a spree." Aksionov's wife dreamt that when her husband returned from the town, he had grey hair, which stated clearly that he would return home only after a long period of time. He said that it was a sign of luck and added that he would bring many gifts to her while returning. His wife replied, "I do not know what I am afraid of. All I know is that I had a bad dream. I dreamt you returned from the town, and when you took off your cap, I saw that your hair was quite grey." Aksionov laughed. "That's a lucky sign," said he. "See if I don't sell out all my goods and bring you some presents from the fair." So he said goodbye to his family and drove away. Axiano's wife dreamt that when her husband returned from the town, he had grey hair, which stated clearly that he would return home only after a long period of time. He said that it was a sign of luck and added that he would bring many gifts to her while returning. When he had travelled halfway, he met a merchant whom he knew, and they put up at the same inn for the night. They had some tea together and then went to bed in adjoining rooms. It was not Axiano's habit to sleep late, and wishing to travel while it was still cool, he aroused his driver before dawn and told him to put in the horses. During his journey, he met another merchant who was his friend. They checked into an inn. They had tea together and slept in adjacent rooms at night. Axiano left the inn before dawn to travel to the fair while it was still cool. Then he made his way across to the landlord of the inn, who lived in a cottage at the back, paid his bill and continued his journey. He directly met the landlord of the inn, paid his bill and continued his journey. When he had gone about 25 miles, he stopped for the horses to be fed. Axiano rested a while in the passage of the inn. Then he stepped out into the porch and, ordering a samovar to be heated, got out his guitar and began to play. When he had crossed about 25 miles, he stopped to feed his horse. He took rest in the passage of an inn. Then he went inside and ordered a samovar to be heated. Samovar means a Russian metal urn for making tea. And then he began to play his guitar. Suddenly, a troika drove up with tinkling bells and an official alighted, followed by 2 soldiers. He came to Axiano and began to question him, asking him who he was and whence he came. Suddenly, a troika is a Russian vehicle pulled by a team of 3 horses. A troika came there with tinkling bells, and an officer was followed by 2 soldiers, came directly to Axiano, and he began to inquire Axiano that from where he was coming and who he was. Axiano answered him fully and said, "Won't you have some tea with me?" But the official went on cross-questioning him and asking him, "Where did you spend last night? Were you alone or with a fellow merchant? Did you see the other merchant this morning? Why did you leave the inn before dawn?" Axiano answered his questions and welcomed him to share tea with him. But the officer went on asking many questions, such as where he had spent his previous night, where he was alone there or with any other merchant, and he also added that whether he saw that merchant that day morning. He also asked Axiano why he left the inn earlier in the morning. Axiano wondered why he was asked all these questions, but he described all that had happened and then added, "Why do you cross-question me as if I were a thief or a robber? I am traveling on business of my own, and there is no need to question me." Axiano answered all the questions and asked the officer why he was asking such questions to him. He also said he was not a robber or thief, and he said that he was traveling on the purpose of his business. Then the official, calling the soldiers, said, I am the police officer of this district, and I question you because the merchant with whom you spent last night has been found with his throat cut. We must search your things. The officer explained that he was a police officer and he said that the merchant with whom he had spent last night had been found with his throat cut, and so he came there to search his things. They entered the house. The soldiers and the police officer unstrapped Axiano's luggage and searched it. Suddenly, the officer drew a knife out of a bag, crying, Whose knife is this? Axiano looked, and seeing a blood-stained knife taken from his bag, he was frightened. How is it there is blood on this knife? The soldiers and the police officer opened Axiano's luggage and searched, and they found a blood-stained knife there. Axiano tried to answer, but could hardly utter a word and only stammered, I don't know, not mine. Then the police officer said, This morning, the merchant was found in bed with his throat cut. You're the only person who could have done it. The house was locked from inside, and no one else was there. Here is this blood-stained knife in your bag, and your face and manner betray you. Tell me how you killed him and how much you stole. He stammered. The officer explained that the merchant found in bed with his throat cut. He said that the house was locked inside, and so Axiano should have murdered him and stolen his things. Axiano swore that he had not done it, that he had not seen the merchant after they had tea together, that he had no money except 8,000 rubles of his own, and that the knife was not his. But his voice was broken, his face pale, and he trembled with fear as though he went guilty. Axiano promised that he had not done it, and also he had not seen the merchant that morning. He said that he was having only 8,000 rubles of his own, and the knife the officer took from his bag was not his. His voice was broken and he began to tremble. The police officer ordered the soldiers to bind Axiano and to put him in the cart. As he tied his feet together and flung him into the cart, Axiano crossed himself and wept. His money and goods were taken from him, and he was sent to the nearest town and imprisoned there. The police officer commanded to tie Axiano, and he was taken to the nearby town and imprisoned. All his things were taken from him. Enquiries as to his character were made in Vladimir. The merchants and other inhabitants of that town said that in former days he used to drink and waste his time, but that he was a good man. Then the trial came on. He was charged with murdering a merchant from Ryazan and robbing him of 20,000 rubles. They began to inquire about Axiano in Vladimir. The people said he used to drink in his young age, but now he was good. Now the court case came on. Axiano was punished for killing the merchant from Ryazan and stealing 20,000 rubles. He was in despair and did not know what to believe. Her children were all quite small. One was a baby at her breast. Taking them all with her, she went to the town where her husband was in jail. At first, she was not allowed to see him, but after much begging, she obtained permission from the officials and was shaken to him. When she saw her husband in prison dress and in chains, shut up with thieves and criminals, she fell down and did not come to her senses for a long time. Then she drew her children to her and sat down near him. She told him of things at home and asked about what had happened to him. He told her all, and she asked, "What can we do now?" Axiana's wife met him in the prison. At first, she was not allowed to see him. Later, she got permission. She fainted on seeing Axiano. She asked Axiano what they can do then. "We must petition the Tsar not to let an innocent man perish." His wife told him that she had sent a petition to Tsar, but it had not been accepted. Axiano did not reply, but only looked downcast. Then his wife said, "It was not for nothing I dreamt your hair had turned grey. You remember? You should not have started that day." And passing her fingers through his hair, she said, "Vanya, dearest, tell your wife the truth. Was it not you who did it?" Axiano asked his wife to send a petition to Tsar. Tsar is the Emperor of Russia. She said that she had done it already, but it was rejected. He looked discouraged. She made him to remember her dream on the day of his departure. She also asked him to say the truth whether he had murdered that merchant. "So you do suspect me," said Axiano, and hiding his face in his hands, he began to weep. Then a soldier came to say that the wife and children must go away, and Axiano said goodbye to his family for the last time. Axiano asked his wife whether she was judging him. He hid his face and began to weep. Then a soldier said that the wife should move away from that place. Axiano said goodbye to his family, and that was the last time he met his family. Let us continue this story next week. Thank you, students.